everybody. Welcome to another episode of Get Ready. And this one's a big one. This is actually an interview that I've been meaning to do for quite some time because uh, this gentleman and I go way back to the beginning of my career in this field when uh, when I was just starting out with tapping and getting online and doing things and came across this advertisement for a book called Spiritual Marketing. And I wrote and said, and there were bonuses that came with the book. And I wrote to the gentleman and said, I'm not really that interested in marketing, but I like one of the bonuses. He said, it's not really just about marketing. And that led to an interchange of emails 20 years ago now, which led to being on a presentation called Attract a New Car, which led to a program called Money Beyond Belief. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear friend, Dr. Joe Vitale. Hey, Joe.
Good to see you. I had forgotten that we started in the previous century. How often do you get to say something like that? Yeah, we've known each other since the last century.
It goes a ways back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just keep getting up and doing your thing, and the next thing you know, it's a new century and a new year, and here we are, decades later. Good to see you. Thanks for finally getting around to including me in your interviews.
I don't know, it's quite so much that as trying to get a hold of you
Ah,
and nail
fun.
you down. And
I'm glad to be
yeah,
here. Glad to see your smiling face. Thank you.
yeah. And likewise. So you are now on book we're talking possibly
Yeah.
book 92, 150. You've written quite a few of them. As you say, you write them and don't count them. But and I am blessed that to have been a part of one or two of them with
Hmm.
some mentions and some articles.
Hmm.
But so this one is a continuation on the Ho'oponopono and zero limits concept, zero limits living.
Yeah, Zero Limits Living is the latest book. And I don't know that it's a continuation of Ho'oponopono so much as a transcendence of it,
I love that.
because I keep growing, which is why I keep writing books. I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm curious. And as I go beyond whatever the last thing I wrote about, there's going to be new discoveries, new terrain, and I end up writing about that. So zero limits living includes the law of attraction, includes Ho'oponopono, but it goes beyond all of it. It really does. It's the latest, greatest for me.
Zero limits writing.
There you go. Oh, wait a minute. I have to go write another book. It's called Zero Limits Writing. Excuse me. I'll have that done tonight.
Excellent. It seems like you go that fast. You've often said the universe loves speed. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Money loves speed. The universe loves speed. The basic rule of thumb there is that when you get the blocks out of your subconscious, whether you do it with tapping or Ho'oponopono or something else, then you accelerate the results. Because what was slowing down the results wasn't anything in the outer world, it was what was in the inner world.
yeah.
So, yes, I can have an idea for a book or receive one, like you just said, Zero Limits Writing, and I'll go, oh, wait a minute, that sounds good. And next thing you know, I'll write it because there's nothing in me doubting it or second guessing it or wondering about it to slow it down. It's like gunshot. Just pull the trigger, go, and the book's done.
Yeah.
So expect it tomorrow.
Well, and that's kind of how we first connect when we first connected was uh Abraham Hicks was out there and had the four step
Yeah.
manifestation process, and I was looking at it and saying, no, there's got to be a step in there about you got to clear out the blocks so that you can
Yes.
really feel good.
Yes.
And you were
Yes.
talking about that. It's like, oh yes, we're so simpatico on this idea of
Yeah.
yeah, get
Yeah.
excited, but you got to clear out the energetic blocks that are keeping you from being in
Uh,
vibrational harmony with that.
Brad, I discovered that was the missing secret. I love Jerry and Esther. I mean, Jerry's gone. They were early clients of mine back in the late 80s, early 90s. And I had helped them with their books, their events, and of course they've gone off into orbit and they're just beyond touching at this point. I still love them. I still love what they're talking about, but I really felt like there was a missing step. And that's where you and I connected because we both agreed that if you don't take care of what I was calling the hidden blocks, the subconscious blocks, the unconscious blocks, whatever you want to call that, I ended up with a phrase calling them counter intentions.
Yeah.
And those counter intentions got to be tapped out. You got to get rid of them. And then when you do it, then the things you feel good about, the things you're joyous to bring into your life, the intentions, the law of attraction, everything's going to work. And it's going to work better than ever before. It's going to work faster than ever before. But I really have felt for the longest time and still do today that that's the missing secret to success. And most people don't understand it.
Yeah, I remember the time that I went to see an event, and thanks to being a friend of yours, I got to meet Esther afterwards. But
Ah,
I seen the monster bus, and on the back it's written, "The most important thing is that you feel good." It's like,
yeah.
yes. So what's stopping you from feeling as good as
There,
possible?
that's it. I just got
What is
chills
that
when
block, that
that's
counter
it.
intention, as you said?
Yeah. No, Brad, I just got chills when you said that because that is really the key. And it explains why a whole lot of people are frustrated because they may be Abraham junkies. And I don't blame them because it's all about feeling good and you're
Yeah.
stretching to feel good. But when you don't feel good and it ends up being an issue and you end up blaming yourself and you end up finding that you are going into depression or anxiety because you don't feel good and you think you should feel good and you don't know how to unravel that, that is the essence of what I am teaching and what you are teaching is that there are tools, very simple tools like tapping, Ho'oponopono, there's a lot of different ones
Hmm.
that'll help people to get rid of what's keeping them between what they want, the joy, and this moment of bliss. They can get back into it when they remove, tap out, whatever the phrase is,
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
blocks.
Yeah. And it's having that willingness to acknowledge that that might be there.
Yeah.
Because so many people say, no, 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 I'm feeling totally good about it. When I look at my vision board, I'm as excited as humanly possible. It's like, it's not showing up. I'm going to suggest that
Well,
maybe.
that's where tough love comes in. I tell people you have to be ruthlessly honest with yourself. You can't just kind of smudge over it or gloss over it, whatever the phrase is. If you are looking at your vision board and you're not attaining your vision board, there's probably a reason for it. Or if you're looking at your vision board and you're having some questioning, self doubt, some skepticism, and you're beginning to question with some suspicion that maybe this stuff doesn't work, these are clues that something's going on in you. And when you know there's something going on in you, then you have to reach for a tool. And a lot of people don't know the tools are available, which is why I so love what you and I have done together and what you continue to do out there in the world on your own. We provide these tools. And for the most part, the tools are as innocent and as easy and as free as anything could ever be. So once somebody knows the tool's there, they learn the very basics of using them, then they can break free. Then they can look at their vision board with a lot of glee and a lot of childlike enthusiasm, and they will accelerate the manifestation of it
Yeah. And
at
I
that
find
point.
a lot of folks are afraid that, so sometimes with the comments I'll get on YouTube where the most negative comments are people who feel that resistance. And it's like, I'm afraid of achieving what I want. And so I need to ridicule Ho'oponopono or tapping or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
And every one of your 500 books is a threat to their comfort zone. It's like, don't tell me how I can have what I am very determined to, very committed to my idea that that I have multiple limits.
Yeah.
There is no zero limits. I have multiple limits.
That's funny. I'm in complete favor of people choosing their limits. If they sit there and they go, you know what, I want to be unhappy and I want to be here in my life and I want to have these little walls around me and I want to be able to complain because it feels good to complain or bitch and moan about neighbors or spouse or whatever. It's like if you are consciously choosing that and you're okay with it, Godspeed to you. Enjoy your limitations. I'm here at least to point a light to say, I don't know that we really have any limitations. That's part of what my new book is all about. It's all about an exploration. And that's what I call it. It's an exploration. Do we have limits or not?
Yeah.
And I've interviewed a lot of people just like you have. And I often will ask them, do you think we have limits? And the agreed upon answer, said in a bunch of different ways, is the only limits we have are the mental constructs we have about what we think is possible. We change our mental beliefs about what we think is possible, and suddenly there's a new possibility.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we have any limits, but you get to choose. If you
Yeah.
want to choose, you got some limits, enjoy yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I uh I have a saved clip from the film Green Lantern. I'm a big Green Lantern fan. The
Yeah.
movie, okay, we're not going to talk about that. But there is the great scene where the character is teaching him how to use the ring. And he says,
Mm.
you learn to control your will to manifest what you think of. And the ring's only limits are your imagination.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
It's that one little section is like, okay, that the rest of the movie, I don't know, but that one moment.
Yeah. That's the prize right there. That's the
Yeah.
nugget of wisdom.
And learning to control your will and your intention to do that. And
Yeah.
but our will and intention is so controlled by all the limitations that have been piled on us, from
Mhm.
the beginning. It's like, nope, this is the limit and this is a limit, and this is where you can go.
Well, we're living from what I call the nest of beliefs. We've got a software that's running in our brain, and we don't typically know it because we're living in it. We're living within it. And so when we look at life, we just think this is the way it is.
Yeah.
We don't stop to realize that it's actually our version of life that we're living.
Yeah.
And we're living our version of life based on the beliefs that we downloaded, that we accepted, that we never questioned, because nobody ever said you could question them. When you and I are born, we start downloading information because we're just silly putty,
Yeah.
in human flesh.
Yeah.
And we might have a little bit of wiring that came in unconsciously, but then we just download the culture, our parents, the religion, the educational system, the media. And we're as naive, we're babes,
Yeah.
and we don't have discernment. So we download all of this and we get to a point where I'm in my 70s now, and I still look around and go, I believe what? Where'd that come from? And when we awaken to these limiting beliefs, that's when we have the opportunity to go, wait a minute, maybe that's not actually true. Maybe that's a limitation that I acquired along the way. Maybe that's a belief that my father had, and he downloaded it from his father, and he didn't have any consciousness about it at all. And I didn't either until I reached a certain age because of doing the inner work and meditation and seminars and books and everything else. I get to a point where I start to question my own beliefs. I think we're all like that. We're living out of our beliefs. So it seems like this is life. This is just the way it is. That's not true. There's 8 billion people on the planet. And my version of that is there's 8 billion versions of life.
Yeah.
And so when we look at ourselves and we go, this isn't really working for me, or I'm not happy in certain areas, which might be a better rule of thumb, that's when we get to look in the mirror and go, why not? What might be there in the way? And as we get closer to articulating it, then we can, let's tap. Let's do some of the wonderful tools that we have available to free ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Recognizing that we have a choice. It's I've often said to folks when we're tapping, when we're babies, we're just watching. It's like, okay, we're watching the adults. Oh, that's what walking is. All
Yeah.
right, I'll do that. This talking, this sounds, okay, I'll do that. This five figure income. No, I don't think I'll do that. I think I'm gonna go for more.
Right.
No, we just go, okay, that's what it is. Whatever the limitations are, and and the thing is, for anyone who's watching this right now, obviously has stepped out of that, at least to some extent.
Yes.
That whoever you are watching this, it's like, okay, I do recognize that there is something outside of what's there, because if you were determined to stay in that bubble, you wouldn't be watching this right now.
Right. Well, one of the beautiful things about interviews like this is people get to expand what's possible.
Yeah.
This is what I think is so joyful about reading. I love books. I've been addicted to books since I was a little kid. And part of what goes on there is it not only teaches me how to live in life, but it stretches the boundaries of what I think is possible. So if I read a story about an athlete who breaks all kind of records, I start to think, well, that must be possible for other people and maybe even possible for me. Or if I read a book about somebody who was homeless, well, I was homeless at one point. And if I read a book about somebody who was homeless, but they went on to become a billionaire, for example, then I think, well, maybe that's possible for me. So listening to shows, talking to other people, reading these books, watching inspiring movies, they slowly stretch us
Yeah.
open to a in the direction of zero limits living
Yeah.
because we get inspired. We think, well, it must be possible. It's in the realm of possibility.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know that you're also, well, you play a lot of different instruments, but you have your guitar, one of your guitars in the back there.
Yeah.
It's like learning a new chord. It's like, what?
Mhm.
There's an E minor? I've only just been playing A, D, and G.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
so it's expanding that. And then with all of these different things that you pick up in books and these ideas, like, wow, that just stretches the possibilities of what I can create.
And I also want to say something since you brought up the music thing. I think this is really relevant. There isn't any finish line to personal development, self growth, or zero limits living. We keep expanding, but I don't know that there's a finish line. And my example is you brought up the guitar. When I turned 60, which was well over 10 years ago at this point, I'm in my 70s. But when I turned 60, I looked around and said, well, what's on my bucket list? What hadn't I done? And I decided music. I had guitars and I could strum a few chords and I knew a handful of chords, but I didn't know how to write music, didn't know how to be with a band, didn't know how to sing, didn't know how to record music, didn't know anything like that. And I decided that was my intention. At age 60, I'm going to get a band together. I'm going to learn how to sing, write songs, play guitar, get on stage, go in a recording studio, make my own album. So there's the intention. It sounds wonderful, doesn't it? The first thing that happened was sheer terror. Sheer terror. I
Yeah.
collapsed in fear. I'm going, who am I to do this? I'm too old. I have no musical background, no musical skills. I didn't even sing in the shower. I didn't never did karaoke. It was too terrifying. I never did any of these things. I got chills right now thinking about it, remembering. I was devastated in fear. So what did I do? The first thing is to recognize whenever we do something that's out of our comfort zone, we're going to feel uneasy, if
Yeah.
not terrified.
Yeah.
I felt terrified. I used all my resources. Tapping is a go-to for me. I did tapping, I was doing it a long time ago, but I do tapping every day, and I certainly did it then. So it was like, even though I'm terrified and petrified, and I'm going to collapse on stage, and I'll never be able to pull it off, and people are going to make a fool of me, and I'm going to ruin my reputation and my career. Oh my God, my brain just ran me into a ditch and then just poured cement over me. It was awful. I kept tapping, tapping, tapping. Well, Brad, the short answer is I've now recorded 15 albums. I've recorded 15 albums. A couple of my songs were nominated for awards. A couple of my melodies were used in movie soundtracks. I did perform on stage with my band of legends, which I gathered around me. I did get a standing ovation. And I learned how to play the guitar, played an album of saxophone music, and I was already playing the harmonica, so I had that in my back pocket, so to speak. The point is, I was terrified because I was doing something I had never done before. And certainly somebody listening or watching is got the shaky boots right now because they're thinking of doing something and maybe they're feeling bad about it and maybe they want to stop. Maybe they want to give up. These are clues that there's a dream you want to attain and there's a belief, a counter intention in the way of it. That's where you want to tap it away, ho'oponopono it away, do some sort of mojo or rain dance to get rid of it. Because when you do, then you go and you make your 15 albums or whatever it is.
So that's incredibly personally inspiring because I own, oh, four guitars, three saxophones,
I didn't
a
know.
dozen of these things,
I didn't know that.
and can only do a few chords.
Right.
And I turned 60 2 weeks ago. So
Happy birthday. Happy
thank you.
birthday.
So, and there are those times like, okay, at 60, if I've only been able to learn a couple of chords, I've probably reached that limit of my musicality. So now it's like, oh, now you've just blown that barrier for me. So,
Man.
Thank you, and thanks a lot.
Yes, right. Well, that's a challenge. And I really think that everybody has some sort of desire. There's a secret wish, there's a secret desire, there's a secret intention to do something that's maybe playful and maybe it's earth-shaking. And, maybe it's unique to that person. For me, it was making music at the age of 60. I've since gone on. I'm doing other things. I have other goals. I'm not dead. So as long as I'm getting up every morning and going for what excites me, I'll probably be going for things that scare me a little bit as well. But I got those tools. It's
Yeah,
the same thing with you. First of all, happy birthday. I mean, that is a
thank you.
wonderful turning point. It is the gravy train of your life. You are now in a position where you can pick up the harmonica, the saxophone, and guitar and go and record some of the greatest fun music unique to you of all time. It's just a matter of saying, this is what I want to go do and tap away anything that gets in the way of proceeding.
Yeah, yeah,
You look like you're processing it. It's like, yeah, it sounds easy, Joe.
yeah, yeah. Sure.
You make it sound easy, Joe. Thanks a lot. I just want to this whole thing is called Get Started, right?
Get
I
ready. Get ready to
get
break
ready.
through those limitations and yeah, and then go and write my 91 books and
Yeah. You say 91 books, and a lot of people act like they're impressed. And I get it. When I think I've written 91 books, I'm like, I did what? I, I'm impressed too. But then you look at somebody like Isaac Asimov, and he wrote 500 books. And now I look like a slacker. Now it looks like, well, Joe, you're sleeping too late in the morning, man. He wrote 500 books before he took the exit sign and left us. You've only written 90 or 92, whatever it is. You're a wimp.
Yay, but one of our greatest American authors, Harper Lee, only wrote one. So it's
One good
we
one,
we
right?
we, we have to be careful with comparisons.
Well, isn't that the truth? Comparison can be the thief of joy.
The thief of joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what inspired? I mean, it's that's the thing is when with all of these books, it's like that
Yeah.
inspiration, and maybe it's just
Yeah.
somebody throwing off an offhand comment like Zero Limits Writing and going, "Oh, that made a great book." But
Yeah.
what was it that
That's
inspired this latest book?
that's a great question. I had a illumination. I had a Satori experience. I
Mm,
had this awakening. I was minding my own business. I was probably in the hot tub, which is where I go at the end of every one of my days when I'm not traveling, and sitting and just saying thank you to the universe and relaxing, very often with a cigar. And I remember that a lot of things that have been separate in my life, like the law of attraction in one area, Ho'oponopono in another area, spirituality and the quest to learn about the divine in another area, they all came together. They all came together, and I realized they were not separate. They were actually three legs of a stool, if you will. I ended
mm,
up calling them three pillars. And in fact, Zero Limits Living is the title of the book. The three pillars to achieving all your life's goals is the subtitle. And those three pillars are mindset. And again, mindset. I've talked about mindset in separate books, but that's only one pillar. That's not the total answer. People say, oh, you'd have to have a positive mindset. That's a piece of the puzzle. It's not the whole system or strategy. So the first pillar is understanding mindset. The second pillar is about inspired action. Most people, especially in the self-help, the secret junkies, or the law of attraction people, or even the Abraham disciples, they don't like to take action because they think, well, if I just think it and feel it, it'll just pop into my life. And I use the example, if I've written 92 books, I didn't just think it and feel it. I got up and I went to the computer. In the early days, I went to the typewriter and I started pounding the keys. Otherwise, you and I wouldn't be talking about any books.
right,
So
right.
there's inspired action as part of the second pillar. And yet there's a third pillar. And the third pillar is what I refer to as mysticism. And the mysticism is the understanding that yes, we're human beings, and you and I, we had lunch together. We've met. We've been in friendship for decades. We did our product decades ago, and it's still online selling. And yet, there is a divine spark in you and a divine spark in me that is actually the same divine spark in everybody watching and listening. And that divinity is animating us. And the more we can merge with the divinity, the closer we get to what's called enlightenment. I put all three of these pillars together and I call it zero limits living because now you're moving in the direction of removing the beliefs as part of the mindset, taking the action as part of the inspired movement, and realizing that there's this mystical quality behind the beliefs, behind the body, behind the actions, enables you to have almost not superhuman, but supernatural abilities to achieve things you never thought possible before. They didn't even occur to you before because it was so out of the realm of possibility. So all of this is a mouthful of an answer to say, I had a lightning strike in a hot tub. I had a lightning strike in a
That could
hot
be
tub.
dangerous.
It could be. And I came out of it dazed and confused and ended up writing a book called Zero Limits Living.
Awesome. Awesome. It's I love it. It's like the idea of I know you're likewise a fan of Mr. Bach. We've talked about this book
Oh,
before,
yes, Richard Bach. Mhm.
and how he said, I don't think I'm done with it. I've written the last thing I need to write, and then an idea bursts through the wall and
Right,
grabs me and says, "What
right.
about me?"
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it happens all the time. I think I'm done. It's like, no, there's one more. And it would be an ego trip for me to go, oh, I've completed my discoveries about life. It's like decades ago when people started going on the internet. I remember I had dinner with some guy and he says, I finished the internet. And I'm like, what? He says, yeah, I went through it all. I saw everything. I'm done with the internet. It's like, give me a break. None of us are done. You're not done with the internet. You're not done with living. You're not done with learning. You're not done with fulfilling. You're not done with creating. Get up every day and dance through life. Enjoy what's going on. There's just not a finish line.
Yeah, I would hate to be done. It's like when people talk about retirement, I'm like, I can't even imagine
Yeah,
retiring. I love the
yeah,
exploration.
yeah.
What on earth would I do? And not exploring these ideas of what else is possible. Okay, now what? How else do we reach that? It reminds me of the story of I think it was around the 1880s. The head of the U.S. Patent Office
Oh, yeah.
petitioned to close it down, saying
Right.
everything that has been invented, that
It's
could be
been
invented,
invented.
has been invented.
Yeah. Talk about closed minded. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about the world of possibilities. I got tired of answering the question about retirement, and I finally said, "Yeah, I know what I'm going to do when I retire. I'm going to write a book.
Yeah.
I might record an album. I might do a movie. I'm going to do what I'm doing. This is my life. This is what I love. Why would I stop any of it?"
Yeah. Yeah. My one of my biggest heroes is David Bowie. And
Yeah,
in his final months, it's like, I think I'll put out another album.
yeah, yeah. Just keep doing it. Just keep
Yeah.
growing. Just keep stretching.
Yeah. Well, and you certainly don't look like you're in your 70s. You're doing something right.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And obviously far from done, far from any whatever, if there are any limits. It doesn't look like you're approaching them.
Yeah, I keep probing for limits, but I don't really think there are. Um, all you got is your own mind saying you can do something or you can't do anything. So I don't know that there are any limits.
Yeah. That was one of the quotes from the Messiah's Handbook in Illusions is argue for your limitations and they're yours.
Yes,
So I did a video on that and I said, oh, yes, tapping along. And there may be some things I don't expect to fly to the moon without any sort of vehicle. And then at the end of the video in the closing, I said, and I was just kidding about the flying to the moon because who knows?
right,
At our level
right.
of evolution, it seems impossible, but there are all kinds of things that we do on a daily basis that to
Yeah.
somebody thousands of years ago wasn't imaginable.
It would be incomprehensible.
Yeah.
If I held up my phone to, Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor that's been so popular, and tried to explain it to him, there'd be no connection. It'd be incomprehensible. I would look like I was either a deity or a demon to him, because there would be no way for him to comprehend what that was.
Yeah. Thank
That's
you
how
for the
far.
shout out. I was told by a psychic that I was Marcus Aurelius in a previous life.
Well,
So,
you look a lot like him. You're missing a crown and a purple robe, but I'm pretty sure you can get one on
and the
eBay.
beard, but
You can get it on eBay.
here you go. That's what I aspire to.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's good to
well,
have aspirations.
yeah. it keeps us going, gets us
Right,
up in the morning.
right.
And it's inspiring to know that there are zero limits. Just when we
Like I
think I've
say,
done it,
it's an exploration. If somebody wants to keep their limits, geez, go ahead. Just
that's the
know it's your
thing.
choice. That's all.
If you're not hurting anybody, other than yourself, you're free to do it. No judgment, just an invitation.
Exactly.
Hey, try my brand.
Try my cereal.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, it thank you so much for what you do.
Wow.
Um, for the world in general, but for me personally, because I
Wow.
mean, when we got together and did that program, that was huge. We did that just before The Secret came out,
Right. Right.
so I was happy to be able to ride your coattails on that one.
Aha.
I remember as we were figuring out the marketing for it, you said, "Hey, I'll have to get back to you. I'm on my way to Chicago to shoot this film."
Those were the days. And it also shows that none of us know what's around the corner. We do the best we can in each moment and in each day and go to bed and sleep and get up and start over the next day. When I went to Chicago, I had no idea that this was going to be the movie The Secret, or it would make history and still have ripple effects going on now, almost 20 years later.
Yeah,
We don't know any of these things.
yeah,
Back then, I am, and still am proud of the program we did that's still online with the Money Beyond Belief.
yeah,
I still think it's one of the best things I've ever done. I really enjoy doing it with you. And it's just a matter of we get up and we do what we feel is right
yeah,
and what brings us the most zing.
yeah, and be open to those possibilities because who knows what's possible and expect miracles as you like to say. And
I,
I like a couple of months ago I actually shot a video called "Expect Miracles" and in parentheses, thank you, Dr. Joe Vitale.
oh, thank you. Thank you for the shout out
But
for
that
that.
but that inspired me to it's like, oh, this would make an awesome video. So we never know. And so it's expecting that, being open to something miraculous could happen this year, this week, in the next 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
allowing ourselves to be okay with that.
Absolutely correct. Well, something magical is happening right now by doing this with you.
Well,
A
thank
long awaited moment.
thank you. Thank you. And folks, get the book, explore that, explore zero limits living, and thank you so much, Joe.
I can't thank you enough. Thanks for the honor of being here, but more importantly, thank you for your treasure of a friendship. I appreciate you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.